to another lesson on exploring features of MX Excel interface and data operations. So today in this lesson we'll be looking at some basic operations when it comes to Microsoft Excel. So before we move to our Microsoft Excel application, let us look at some keynotes from our PowerPoint presentation before we'll now dig in and then see how we can insert data in our Microsoft Excel application. So let's dig in. All right. So from our keynotes we'll be looking at today, the focus will be on some basic operations, as I said earlier, with regards to Microsoft Excel application. And when we talk about Microsoft Excel application in our previous lessons, we've been taking through most of the features and then what it does. But in this lesson, we are coming to look at how we can insert data in the application and some key notes we need to take notice of when we are working with the application, and then we make mention of those applications. We will know what that function does or what we are supposed to do. So very quick, we'll look at the basic operations we have displayed on our screen. We have insert, select, delete, and then move. So the operations and then their various descriptions. But our focus today will be on the insert, but we'll go through them so that in the next lesson we'll have familiarity with it. So with the insert, the operation, that's insert as an operation. The description says you add rows, columns, cells, or cells as you add rows, columns, or cells, which in our previous lessons we've been taking through and explain what a row is, what a column is, what cells are. So when you are working with Excel and you hear of insert, what should always come to mind is you are adding a row, a column, or a cell, which means you have to computate it with data, or you are populating a cell or a sheet with certain data. So whenever you are inserting, that means you are adding data, which the data can be in, maybe you are inserting it in the row or the column in your Excel sheet. So that is for the insert, which is our main topic for today's lesson. We'll look at how we can also insert a data sample, which after this slide I'll be displaying, and then we'll look at the steps involved if we are to insert data in Microsoft Excel. And another operation is also select, that is you highlight cells to edit or format. Delete, that is you remove data or entire rows or columns. And then we have the move, you cut and paste data to another area. So our focus today is on the insert, which says we add rows, columns, or cells. So we'll see how that can be done. Let's look at our next slide. Good. So this is a sample data set for demonstration we'll be using. So what we have on our screen, we'll switch to the Excel application and then demonstrate this, how we can enter all this in the Excel sheet, just like it's displayed in our PowerPoint presentation. So we'll look at how that will be done as a sample data set for demonstration. All right, so we have the name, age, class, score, and then the names are Ama, Kojo, Esi, and then the various informations are also displayed there. So we'll look at that. So let's quickly look at the steps involved if you are to insert data in a cell. All right, so inserting data, these are the steps. You select a cell, example A5, that's a cell reference. You type the data you want to fix in the cell, and then you press enter, and your data will be fixed into the cell. very nicely. So these are the steps involved if we are to insert data into an Excel application. That is that. So very quick, we'll launch our Microsoft Excel application to see how we can demonstrate this sample data set we have on our screen very nicely. So just to remind ourselves to launch the application, if you have it installed on the machine, you can come to the start button and then you go to all programs. So you will find it here, or better still, you can just come to search, you type Excel, it will pop up nicely. Then you click your application to launch. That's just a revision. So the moment your application is launched, you go to the blank workbook. You have it nicely on your screen. Great. So now the next thing to do is we are coming to populate it with the data set I displayed in the Microsoft PowerPoint. So from our Microsoft PowerPoint, we could see that we had the columns had columns heading. So when we pick column A, it was name, and then column B was age, and then column C was class, and then the last column was score. So just from our steps, when you click on the cell, you type the heading and then you move to the next line. But in our case, you realize we were filling the columns headings. So in that case, when you type name, when you press enter, the next uh, cell under the name will be selected. To prevent that, when you type, let me undo this process. Let's say you type name and you hit enter, you realize it has come to the next cell under it, which is A2. But in our case, we are filling the columns here. So here, just after typing name, you can use the tab key on the keyboard. When you press the tab key on the keyboard, it moves to the next column. Then you now type the age, and then the next one will be class, and then lastly, that is the score. Then you're good to go. So that is for the column headings. Now we have our columns headings typed successfully. Now we are coming to key in the various information for the columns. So with this, I think we have three names. That is from the PowerPoint slide are displayed. We have three set of names. So we now want to compute that names in the headings. So the first name was, we have Amma, and what we need to always have in mind is that whenever you are filling or inserting data in Excel, when you pick a row, let's say row 2, you make sure you fill it to the end before you come to the next one. Just not to confuse yourself. Let's say if you are working with a huge data set and you don't go by that procedure and then you decide to type the name before you now come to the age and then the class, you can give somebody's age to the other, or you can even give somebody's score to the other. So sometimes it's advisable when you are inserting the data, when you pick a row, you fill it to the last end, then you come to the next one. So just like we are about to demonstrate, we have Amma, and Amma's age is 12. Ahmed's class is 6A, and then Ahmed's score is 75. Then we'll come to the next one, that is Kojo. Kojo's age is 13. Kojo's class is 6B. And then Kojo's score is 80. And then lastly, we have AC. AC's score, AC's age is 11. The class is 6A. And then the score is 90. Very nicely. So the data set we displayed from our PowerPoint, this is how we can represent it in a Microsoft Excel very nicely with the column headings and then the rows having the informations under the columns. And another key thing I want us to look at before we bring this lesson to an end will be when you are typing your column headings. Let's say in cell E1, we want to type class assessment. Then you hit enter just from our steps. You realize that we typed the class assessment in cell E1, but it has been extended to F, which is not supposed to be so. So in this case, there's no need to worry about that. There are two ways you can fix this. Sometimes the way the cell is displayed on our screen doesn't mean that is just the size. No, we can resize it to fit in the content. Let's say if our text is too long or lengthy, we can expand it for the text to fit in nicely, just like the way the name and then the age is fitting nicely. So in this case, you come look at where my cursor is placed in between the E and then the F. When the cursor changes to a cross sign like this with the ending part being an arrow, you just double click. It will open nicely to fit in the class assessment. So let's say if AMA had class assessment 45, 60, and then maybe 78, nicely to fit in. Or better still, if you don't want to double click for it to open, but that is what I always advise, because with that it will open the cell to fit in the length of the text. Others too, you can also click like this and then drag. But there are instances you can drag and then maybe you over open the cell and it will be like this. It's also another way to do that, but I will always recommend you just come in, you double click, it will fit in the text nicely, and you have your information represented as you can see on the screen. So, as I said earlier, basically with when you are working with Microsoft Excel, when it comes to inserting data, this is how it's done, and you have your data nicely represented on your Excel sheet. So today's lesson, that is what we've looked at. You stay tuned and stay glued for other lessons on how you can select, how you can delete, and then how you can move in the next lesson. But for today, we've looked at how we can insert information in a Microsoft Excel as is demonstrated on the screen. Thank you very much. And I will end the lesson here. My name is Nantiara Francis with the index number 42301000003. Thank you.